I thank all of you for calling in today, and those of you who are on Zoom as well. Yesterday, we had a very in-depth discussion about the kingdom and what it means in relationship to who we are today. And we were to look at the 13th chapter of Revelations today. However, before we look at anything differently or continue today, I would like to know if there are any questions that any of you may have about what we discussed yesterday or anything for that matter.
Richard, I tried to pull it up yesterday. Was it downloaded yesterday?
Well, I don't know whether it's downloaded or not. Sheldon, do you know?
No, it hasn't been uploaded yet.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
I'll speak with Janice about it.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay. Well, if there aren't any questions or comments, then I'm going to ask Kathy if she would continue from where we were yesterday.
Good evening, everyone. And I hope you're doing well today. I don't know what's going on with the weather with you guys, but we have a storm going on here, and it knocked my phone out a moment ago. So hopefully that will not happen again, because I really want us to move forward with this lesson, and I trust you're doing well. So if you look at where we're going today, and basically moving forward, I want to back up just a little bit to reaffirm some things that we talked about on yesterday, and to just make certain that we understand the foundation that was laid on yesterday. The whole purpose for going back and looking at the fact that the kingdom is on the inside of me and all around me, based on what I am able to birth into this dimension, into this realm. And when I say birth speaks of, Ron described it yesterday as going back to beginning. And it is a type of beginning because it's a new awareness of the ability that we have. So when I speak to that I am so intimately one with a womb, my Father, and I am so one that I birth his will into this realm, into this kingdom, that means that as a result of who I am, I birth his will into this kingdom by transforming energy that's already in existence here. And I can't say it as eloquently as Sheldon said it yesterday, but the low frequency energy that permeates this realm, that influences the hearts and minds of men in this realm, I have the ability to transform that energy. And so we looked at the law of the land. We looked at what it means when we said that the scripture was given to the African, and that the law of the land governs humanity and mankind. I was thinking about that today, and I began to realize that the law of the land are a set of laws that are given to help me become a morally good, upstanding citizen. When I look at the kingdom principles, they're not in some archive or in some justice building where I say these are the laws, even though they may be written in a book called the Bible. These laws are written in my heart. They are in me. They are who I am, and they govern me. And as a result of allowing those laws to govern who I am, the laws or commandments, or we can call them laws, we can call them commandments, but what they become to us is a way of life that we embrace to the point where even if there were no laws of the land that says thou should not, that would say don't commit murder or don't run the stoplight or don't do all of these, don't harm another individual in any way, don't steal from someone, and all these things are ingrained in us. And so therefore, we have to recognize what that looks like. When we start talking about that I am in this world, but I am not of this world. That's the foundation that we have to stand firm in and remember those things, because the way we avoid allowing ourselves to be pulled into and ensnared and entangled in all of the distractions that are going on around us right now is that we have to come from a state of knowing who we are, remain steadfast and standing firmly in who we are and knowing who we are, and not feel like someone who has no hope and who is hopeless, and as a result, giving up our authority and power to change things because we cannot see that we have that power and that ability. That is why it was so important that we lay that kingdom foundation on yesterday, so that that becomes the platform that we will jumpstart from today, because now that I recognize what it means and who I am and kingdom principles and energy that is always in existence, always at play, always creating, because energy creates. Now the question becomes, what do I allow that energy to create? But it starts from understanding, like I said on yesterday, who my opponent is and how I approach this match that I'm in with this opponent, because it is a wrestling match in which I am to pin and subdue and bring into my will this energy that is permeating the hearts and minds of humanity who lives void of the understanding of what it means to have the spark of divinity in them, and who think that it is laws and privilege and the power that I've always enjoyed and taking up my weapons, all of those things have ensured my place, that I don't lose my place in this quote-unquote earth realm, in this kingdom, this earth kingdom that is at play here. And so once we begin to understand how this all operates, then we move to the place of saying, now that I know this, then what do I do? What more do I need to know? And I talked to you yesterday. I was sharing with you about the anthology series on Prime Time of Them, and how I saw from looking at that movie that energy continues to create whatever it has been creating until it's subdued. And I talked about the family that when they moved into the all-white neighborhood, though there had not been a family, there had been other black families there, but there was not currently another black family there. The energy just reasserted itself again, and it was never lying dormant. It was always creating in the hearts and minds of men that I am the superior race. I am to hate those who don't look like me. And all of those things, even to this day, we continue to deal with, because we have done everything that we knew humanly possible through marches, rallies, passing laws, trying to change laws, trying to get people to vote on bills that will make it easier for the African, and nothing seems to change. So you come to the realization of asking yourself, why are we today dealing with the same things that they were dealing with 50 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago? What is going on? Why is it that now that we are aware that there is energy working against us and that there is a hidden caste system in the society, and as a result of that hidden caste system, we are now being made aware and waking up to the fact that the system says that the African is at the bottom of the totem pole. But we are beginning to understand that he who has been first will become last, and the places are switching. And the push that we see happening in this realm from this low-frequency energy is that it is trying to remain in power. So as we begin to understand those things, you're led to the questions of, okay, I have an understanding of that. I understand that I have the power to change things. But how? How do I get to an understanding of what it is that I am supposed to be changing? Well, I hope you remember that one of the things I also said on yesterday was that basically when we are looking at everything that is in play and everything that is coming up against us, we have to realize that there's a kingdom principle that is going on. These laws are at work against us, and there are two kingdoms in this realm. It is the kingdom of God that is in me, and that kingdom of God that I am to establish in this realm. But then there is a earthly kingdom, an eternal kingdom, earthly kingdom rather, that has been established here on earth. And as a result of that, this external kingdom, and I'm going to call it external because it is from the hearts and minds of those who do not know they have divinity, they create things. I told you on yesterday, the bait and switch is that when we are now going into a place of revelation, what is being revealed to us is what has been hidden in plain sight all along. There have been bait and switches all along. Point in case, for example, we have been deemed the savage race. We have been deemed the uncultured race, the beast race who will destroy anything that it comes in contact with. And that is the reverse. Those who call us that are those who have that nature. That was the first thing. The second bill of goods, or the second lie that we were sold, was the lie that was basically saying to us that, you know what, there is a separation of church and state. The church has nothing to do with the religion, has nothing to do with government, and those two entities are not the same. And they're not the same. But what we're going to learn today when we go to Revelations is that that is a lie. We find that there are forces that work through government, through the foundation that we call the religion, or the church religion, however you want to state that, and those who perpetuate that and hold everything in place, so that even though generations change, nothing really changes physically in this realm. That's the forces that we've been dealing with. That's what we've been up against. So tonight, as we move into this 13th chapter of Revelation, what we're going to begin to understand is, I said to you on yesterday that Revelation, remember, is not the end of the Bible. It's not the last chapter in the Bible. It is the continuation, so that things are being shown to us so that we can see very clearly what has been hidden in plain sight. That's what is about to happen tonight. We're going to lay out for you, and you're going to see it in the scripture, but the understanding that came to me as we look at the beast, as we look at the dragon, as we look at the crowns, as we look at the 7 heads, we will begin to put all of this, and the number 666. I'm going to show you and tell you exactly what the Creator told me. And I'm excited because it frees us when we begin to understand where we are. And throughout the lesson tonight, I want to remind you of something that is very powerful. Never doubt for a moment why you are here. You are the man who seeks truth. As a result of being that man in the earth realm who is seeking truth, you are the man that will have the power to change everything. But when you don't know where to start and what to change, it is very difficult to know what to do. And I go back to that because I told you after we looked at Barabbas and we talked about Barabbas and Jesus for, I would say, maybe 3 weeks, I remember at the end of the lesson, Ron's question was raised. So now that we see this and we know this, what do we do now? Where do we go now? And along those lines, this is a lesson that just came to me. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't seeking it, but I hear it even now as I'm talking to you. And I heard it 2 Sundays ago as clearly as you hear my voice right now. So it resonates on the inside of me. I know this is truth. I know this is revealed truth that we're getting ready to see because it's been hidden in plain sight. So as you begin to go into this 13th chapter of Revelation, and before I go there, questions or comments about anything, I'm going to lay a foundation. Then I'm going to ask Pastor, because when I heard what I heard and I saw what I saw, I immediately sent him a text message and said, please call me because I want to share this. And when I started talking to him about what I was seeing, it opened up immediately for him, as I'm praying it will do for you tonight. And he immediately could just see it clearly, and he can see it even better than I can. So there are parts of this, the foundation, I would like for him to lay out for me tonight. But before I go into this 13th chapter, are there any questions or comments? Okay? Now, as you look at we are talking here in that 13th chapter, you see that there are two things at play here, well, actually three, but you see that there's a beast from the sea and a beast from the earth. And it says, and he stood on the sand, and I'm reading the first 13:1, and he stood on the sand of the seashore, and I saw a beast come up out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads, and on his horns were 10 diadems, and on his head were blasphemous names. I submit to you. Well, Pastor, do you want to come in here? What do you want to pick up?
I can't do it simply verse by verse.
I know. So I'm not going verse by verse. I don't think it would make sense to just talk about it without at least showing that it's that verse. So that's as far as I was going with the verses. So do you want to pick up here or what?
Okay, if we look at the verse that you just read, and we see the beast of the sea, and I'm looking for the verse. Which verse is it? Where it speaks of the beast of the earth.
Number 11, verse 11.
So, and I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. Now, this is what I would like for you to hold on to, is that there is one beast coming out of the sea and one beast out of the earth. And as we look at the beast that comes out of the sea and the ones that come out of the earth, I think it's important to understand the description of the one that's coming out of the sea and what those 10 horns and 7 heads represent. And it talked about the 10 crowns or 10 diadems that was on the head, that was on the horns rather. So I think we should look at the numbers there and see what they represent. And I would ask that you would hold your questions about it until the explanation is completed about what these 10 horns and 10 horns and 7 heads represent. So the 10? I will tell you this: the 10 diadems or 10 crowns represents the supreme authority in that land, or the leadership in that land, like a king or a queen or a president, etc. So the 10 horns speak to the leadership of this nation. Do you want to deal with that, Kathy?
I can lay the foundation, and then if you'll explain it. What was shown to me, basically, is that what we are dealing with is government and religion when you look here. And this blew my mind, because what I saw, and I'm just going to tell you the way it was shown to me, and I definitely want to discuss this, and I hope the teachers will see it too, and how it was shown to me, and Pastor can elaborate and open it up even more, because what I saw, is the way it was shown to me, is that the government and religion become the beast and the dragon. When you begin to look at the number 10, and Pastor just talked about the 10, now I'm just going to lay it out the way it was given to me. This is right off the presses, and there's nothing, I want your questions from this. As I ask the question to myself, as I'm hearing this on the inside of me, okay, when it says that there are 10, and that there were 7 heads and 10 horns, the number 7 we know speaks of completeness, and when I started looking at that, what I heard on the inside of me is I need for you to understand something in the times that you're living in, from where you are right now in 2021. 7 is representative of the last 7 terms of the last 7 men who were in the seat of power in this nation. And as I looked at the seat of power in this nation, it takes us back to the last 7 presidents. And if you look at the history of this nation, of where we are from today to then, it takes us back to Ronald Reagan. And if I count down from Ronald Reagan, I heard the number 10, and I got confused at first because it said the 10 crowns. And as I looked at the number 10, when I called Pastor, I knew it was Reagan because God told me it was from Reagan's time in the White House up to where we are now. And I am not making this political at all. I'm only telling you what's been shown to me. I got confused at first because I was counting 10 men, and it went back to Nixon if I counted 10 men, but I knew it wasn't Nixon. It had to be Reagan. And then if you begin to count the number of terms that each man had been in, the 7 men, it becomes the 10 that we're talking about. 10 speaks to a complete cycle of divine order is supposed to, but it also speaks to a complete cycle that is in existence. So from the time of Reagan to the time of where we are right now, what we are seeing at play is the government. Now, let me explain why this is important. During that time, you've had different political affiliations. You've had Democrats, you've had Republicans, but nothing changes. And as this was being poured out and shown to me, I began to realize, why is nothing changes? Because those people who are seated in the seat of power are still under the influence of the low frequency energy that is at play, so that it doesn't matter who you vote for. It doesn't matter. And we say it all the time. It does not matter who is in the White House. We know to whom we belong, so nothing is going to change. I've heard us say that. I've said that myself, that God is still in control. It doesn't matter who's in the White House, but yet we are still impacted because we start to listen to the laws that are being passed. We start to hear the things that are being said, and we get nervous and we think, well, this is not working. This is working against me as the applicant. Why does it never change? Because we have not understood the power at play right in front of us, because there is a soul link between government and religion that is not disassociated, but the fact that who empowers government to be able to do what it does, it is religion. And Pastor will speak more to that in just a moment. So as that was beginning to be laid out to me, and I'm not calling these men beasts, I'm not calling these men, I'm only telling you what was shown to me. I'm saying in the sense of, when you say, what do we mean by beast here? We are talking about, and beast is the brutal, savage nature of man. It is man who is void of the understanding of who he is and will do anything to remain in his position of power. So as this begins to play out, when you begin to see that the 10 terms equal the 10 different crowns, then it begins to make sense of the horns and the crowns. And so the 7 heads are representative of whoever has been in the seat of power in this country up until this time. Now, here's the other thing. It talks about, and I can't teach this in order, and that's why Pastor can't do it either. When we talk about the number 42 in the time of the beast was 40 and 2, here is another important fact that we have to look at, so that we know that the man in the earth today, we are the thing that stands between the continuance of this kind of power being unleashed in the earth and the change that can come. Because also that was shown to me that I did not know, from the time of Ronald Reagan to the time of Joseph Robinette Biden, to this point right now, we're year number 40. It's been 40 years. The 40 and 2 Pastor will talk to. So I wanted to lay that foundation. Now, Pastor, if you will take the dragon, the beast, and the beasts of the sea and the beasts of the field and tie them together. And then I want your questions before we go forward, because I know this is not what we were expecting, but this is what God is showing me. Things are hidden in plain sight, and things are happening all around us because we don't know the source of the power. When we see the source of the power that gives life to those who are in the seat of authority so that everything remains the same and nothing changes because we don't know who the opponent is, you can't take the power source away from the opponent if you don't know where the power source lies. As a result of looking at what has been shown to me here, I'm beginning to see where the power source lies. Pastor?
First of all, let me say this. It dawned on me that this carries different sense of context because it was shown to you and not me. And I do believe that it was not shown to me for a reason. And that reason being is that I have been so involved in politics for so long until either I would probably have just left it off as being coincidental or others would not have seen it as a spiritual thing coming from me because of my deep political affiliations. However, I never would have thought, on my own anyway, that this was speaking to a power structure that whose end started with Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan became president in 1981, and we are in 2021, and that is exactly 40 years. Now, when we look at the beast, and before you hang up or close your minds, I would that you listen. And I'm going to tell you why black folk close their mind when you start talking about how the scriptures relate to where we are. It's because we have been told by Caucasian religious folks that the Bible, when it speaks of the beast, is talking about Russia. And for some reason, we as a people believe everything they tell us, even though they are our oppressors. I think it's time for us to take an approach to something that our Creator is showing us, and to lose the subconscious bondage that we are in. Meaning that if it does not sound like what we have been told by these religious zealots who comes out of the evangelical settings, then it can't be true. Or if we have not, if it has not been preached across the pulpit, it cannot be true. Well, I submit this to you. We have tried marching. We have tried voting. We have tried praying. We have tried fasting. We have had revivals. We've had prayer meetings. We have had everything that you can think of that white people told us to do in order for us to deliver ourselves from this bondage, and none of it has worked. So I submit to you that at least one time, take it from the mouth of an African and look at the scriptures with fresh eyes, with an open heart, and with a deep desire to know what is being truly said in this book. Having said that, looking at the beast of the sea, it is my contention that the beast of the sea is religion itself. And the reason I say that is because the idea of spirit is represented by water in the earth. And when you look at this beast of the sea and you see the 10 horns that represents the terms of office, it is talking about the religion bearing the government on its head, or it having the authority of government. When you look at that, then if you look further, what you see is after the description in verse 2, it says, "And the beast which I saw," it describes it as being like a leopard. His feet were like a bear, and the mouth like a lion. But this is important. And the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. Who is the dragon? If the beast is religion, then who is the dragon? The dragon is the one that gives religion its power. The power of religion comes from an ecclesiastical leader or ecclesiastical leadership. Example, where does the power in your church come from? The power in your church does not come from the deacons, neither does it come from the congregation. It comes from that pulpit. If the power in your church did not come from the ecclesiastical leadership, which is in that pulpit, then why is it that no matter what comes across that pulpit, right or wrong, and you be knowing is wrong, you don't challenge it and you don't leave it. You stay there. And the actions that follow what comes across that pulpit is religion. Coming across the pulpit, we are told to do certain things, and we do them, even if they are not in our best interest. $50 for a revival when you know that your utility bill is due. Those kinds of things. If you take that exponentially and look at it, you will see that if we look at Christianity, then we see that Catholicism is the dragon, and religion is the beast that's rising up out of the sea. And if we look at Ronald Reagan coming into office, what you will see is that Ronald Reagan came in 1981, and in 1981, during Ronald Reagan's term, what he did something that no other president had done since World War II, and that is he appointed an ambassador to the Vatican. And when you appoint an ambassador to the Vatican or any other place, it is saying that you are recognizing them as a sovereign country, as a sovereign nation. That had not been done since before World War II, because the Vatican actually exerted authority over Eastern Europe until after World War II. All of this sounds political because it is. And if you think for a moment that there is a difference between politics and religion, then you have another thought coming. If there is a difference between politics and religion, then why is it that politicians come to your church when they get ready to run for office? If you think that there is a difference between politics and religion, then why is it that the Caucasian evangelical church rules the roost with politics in this land, with their doctrines finding their origin in Catholicism? So when we look at this and we see that in 81, Reagan was the one who appointed the ambassador to the Vatican, and then when Clinton came into office, he was supposed to have met the Pope in D.C., but he didn't. The Pope insisted on meeting him in Colorado, and he did. And he met him at the highest point in this country, in Colorado, which is in the mountaintop or in an elevated place. And when he met him, he followed protocol, and that was a big issue back then, because protocol when you meet the Pope is to bow and kiss his ring, which means that you're recognizing him as a superior authority, which also means you are submitting your authority to him, or you are coming under his authority. All of these things sound political, but there is nothing in this earth that does not have spiritual connotations. Now, if you watch that, what you will see, you can go back to the annals of history, and you can look in the archives of newspapers, and what you will find is that during that period, that is when we started seeing the moral majority grow in power. That is when we saw the church begin to grow in power in terms of influencing the politics of the nation. So I'm saying all of that to say this, that when it speaks of the dragon giving the authority to the beast of the sea, it's talking about the ecclesiastical leadership. Now, when we look at verse 11, and we see that John says, I saw another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had two horns and like a lamb, and he spoke like a dragon. Spoke as a dragon, rather. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast, meaning that he gets all of his power from the first beast. The government gets all of its power from religion itself. There could never have been slavery in this country for 2 weeks had it not been for religion itself. There can never be anything that functions in this earth if religion does not play a part in it. You can look at any period in the history of this nation, and you will find that religion at every turn played a major part in it in terms of the government having the power that it wielded in this earth realm. So when we talk about the authority, the beast of the earth receiving its power from the beast of the sea, we are talking about the authority of the government. And when it talks about it spoke as a dragon, meaning that it was saying the same thing that the ecclesiastical leadership of religion was saying. It's putting forth the same measures that it was putting forth. This started with Alexander the Great joining the Federation with the Catholic Church and beginning to subdue nations. And it just grew to a place where it culminated here in America. We are at a place in this nation right now where we see that everything that is wrong with this nation when it comes to being equitable with people of color or people without means, we will see that every bit of it has its genesis and support in religion itself. How is it that religion can say that it does not have the influence over the government when religion is the one who put Trump in office? Religion is the one who has kept him in the forefront. Religion is the one who keeps Mitch McConnell's mouth closed. Religion is the one who is perpetuating the racist system that is still intact to this day and fighting to continue to keep it in place as it is now. Are there any questions before I go any further?
And I know this is something you've never heard before, and neither had I. But if you don't see the connection of how truth has been exploited by religion, you don't know what to do to change things that you see happening around you. So this foundation has to be laid so that we can understand, number one, where we are in time at this point in place and the power that's inherent in us so that we can see what needs to be changed. And I'm sorry if it's sounding like a political discussion, but I really would like your feedback on if you're seeing it or not, because I have prayed really hard that you would see this tonight so that when we move forward, you will understand where you are right now and what our role is to be right now to transform that energy that has been permeating the hearts and minds of those who have sat in the seat of power. That is why it does not matter. You think, well, I put a Democrat in, well, nothing changed. It's because the same energy governs that seat of power. Does that make sense? Yes or no? And I really want an answer to that, yes or no.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
but one
Yeah.
thing about it, I'm hearing what you're saying. I see, because I'm writing it down on paper, but I'm not getting it the way I should get it.
Hold on for a second then, Charles. Let me say this. This might help you. Right now, a foundation is being laid, okay? When we get to the place where it begins to talk about the mark of the beast, every bit of it is going to make sense.
Okay,
Let them keep talking.
okay.
Every bit of it will make when we get to the place where we talk about the mark of the beast. because
And it's important to have this foundation first, because we have to see the role that religion, and I'm careful to say religion, because spirituality, the understanding truth that has not been exploited, that's where we come in to uproot all the exploitations that has happened to religion by those in power that will use that to fit what they want, to get what they want. What drives QAnon right now? Religious beliefs. When we hear the things that they say that is their religious beliefs about children being exploited and Donald Trump coming as their savior, and I'm just saying what they say, all of that is real in their hearts and minds, and that drives them. And there are 70 million people who feel that way, who voted for him, because it doesn't matter what else he says, and it doesn't matter what else, how he divides everything else. And when I say he, I'm using that term loosely because it's the energy that drives the hearts and the minds and the thoughts of the people. And that is why we have to know the source of that energy so that we will know how to eradicate that and transform that. Not destroy the energy, transform it, because we can't destroy it. That's why it keeps producing no matter who is. And the reason it had to be presidents, because that is the highest pinnacle of authority in our land, so to speak, in the external kingdom. And so when we realize that we have an internal kingdom, that we are now going inside of ourselves and realizing who we are, now we are birthing that will and that kingdom into this realm. This hasn't been happening. We've been trying to be citizens in two kingdoms. And let me tell you how important this is. Everything that I have been participating in, that I have done mindlessly, the Creator is saying, look at that again. Y'all have heard me say, those who are close to me, I can no longer participate in the 4th of July. That's not a day of freedom and independence for the African. I have to look at Juneteenth. Then, question or comment? Question or comment?
Not only that, Kathy, I had said that too. And plus, when you were talking about Donald Trump and the way he says stuff, it put me in the mind of Hitler.
Same energy. It's the same energy. And can I share one more thing, and then, Pastor, I'm going to give it back to you? How everything that has just been so natural to us, God even said, you can't even say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. And I'm like, okay, it just doesn't sit well with me. And he said, this is what I say now, and I'm going to share this with you all. I'm not saying you're to say this. I'm telling you, as he began to pour this out on to me, this is what he said to me. And my pledge is, I pledge allegiance to a womb and to his kingdom, for which I stand, as one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My allegiance can't be to a flag in a republic that I am not a part of. Every little thing, when I awaken to who I am, I take the power away from the energy that's been producing this rhetoric and this chaos and this division for so long, because I step into the place of who I am and transform that energy. So mindless things that we've been doing and not thinking anything of it, because we learned the pledge in school. I've been saying the pledge for I don't know how many years now. I don't know. And it didn't mean anything until I began to see the trick that was right before my eyes, how religion and government work systematically hand in hand to oppress us, to oppress the African, to keep us in the caste system as a place of being lower and less than any other humans on the face of the earth, the people of color. And as I began to see that and to understand what's written right here in the 13th chapter of Revelation, a freedom and liberty came to me, because I'm not going to be tricked anymore. That's why we have to take this time, and I hope you won't close your hearts and minds and hang up and say, I don't want to hear this. That is what they're counting on. When I say to you the opposite of what I mean, and I give that image of you to you and tell you that's who you are, and I cause you not to want to look inside yourself to see who you are, that's the bait and switch that they've been given to us from our inception in this country. Questions or comments? I'll give it back to you.
This is Barbara. Huh? Good evening.
Mhm.
There's an implication based on what you've said. Then, implication meaning Biden will only serve 2 years, or may only serve 2 years, because they've been
And you have
40 years
already
up until
arrived at where
now.
we're going.
Okay.
Yes,
All right. Okay.
and we're getting to that. I mean, thank you, Barbara, because you see what's being said. Because if we're at 40, and 40 and 2 means something, we'll get to that in just a minute. But you are exactly right, Pastor. Anyone else, or not just Pastor, but anyone else?
I want to say that this sounds conspiratory because it is outside of the realm of our indoctrination,
Yes.
and it sounds far-fetched. So did our desires for everything to be exposed, but yet we see it happen. When we look at who we are with in this nation, I solicit you to at least listen till we get to the mark of the beast. And I am, as Kathy is, on the verge of begging people to open their hearts, because what's being seen and said, what has been shown, is not only so different until it is difficult for you to wrap your minds around, but also it may appear to you to be contrived unless you do the work yourself and count the terms and count the numbers, count the people rather, who served in those offices, and look at the history that you've been given. The other thing is, just like Tulsa was hidden from you and hidden from everyone else, so has this been. I no longer am willing to accept anything that has been told to me without me looking at it all over again. Now, if we look at this in the way it is written, again, we are not going through every single thing in here in terms of every symbol in here. It's the major symbols that we are looking at. When we look at the beast, we talked about that. We've talked about this and where it comes from. We've talked about that the beast is not talking about some beast animal in the field or something derogatory as much as they're talking about the attitude of religion and the attitude of government itself. We are obligated, if we are in pursuit of truth, we are obligated to continue to pursue it, but our greater obligation is this. Our greater obligation is to those who are in government and to those who are caught up in religion. What do I mean by that? We are obligated to reveal the truth so that those who are in government and religion can be freed from the bondage of deception. This is not to free just the African, because the African cannot be free until the Caucasian is free also, because all of us are a part of humanity, and the whole of humanity must experience liberty in order for liberty to be real. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So, are there any questions?
what are your thoughts on what you've heard so far? I mean, I like that Charles is saying I don't see it yet. If you're not there yet, that's okay. I'm going to keep talking. All I can give you is what the Creator showed me. Then I'm going to ask you to just sit with it. And you know us. You have the right to take and leave whatever you choose. But when we get to the end, when everything has been laid out, what you're going to find is that it is
Kathy,
the stone.
Let's just walk through it, okay?
Okay. Well, what do you mean?
Oh, let's just walk through it, and wherever it falls, it falls.
Okay. All right.
If we look at that, it says that, and I saw one of the heads as if it had been slain, and his fatal wound was healed. That's when Reagan got shot. It was here, and the whole earth was amazed and followed after the beast. And they worshiped the dragon. They worshiped the dragon. Why? The ecclesiastical leadership are the ones who took credit for Reagan's healing because they, meaning the evangelical church, solid majority of those folk, called their folk into prayer for his deliverance. And his wound was healed. He was the only president during this time period that was wounded, and his being shot, he was closer to death than anyone knew until after he was healed. Then it says, who is like the beast and who is able to wage war? That's what they were saying. And to this day, the hero of evangelicals is Ronald Reagan. The hero of the Democrats is Ronald Reagan. And let me tell you one more thing about Reagan. Reagan stated what he believed and the foundation of his beliefs by virtue of him announcing when he was going to run for president. He went to Philadelphia, Mississippi, where those civil rights workers were found dead in a river. And he went there for the express purpose of saying by his actions to the Southerners that I hear your cries, I'm with you, and promising to end the safety net which so many of them depended on by talking about welfare queens. I have never seen this like this before until now. And that was given to him, the one who was healed, a mouth speaking arrogant words and blasphemous and authority to act for 42 months was given to him. What was given to the presidency or to those who are in authority was 42 months to speak all the blasphemies, to do all the underhanded, degrading things that they were already involved in doing. It is my belief that the reason we have not seen this before is because of what this 42 means. And it is also my belief that the beginning of the end started then because the Creator knew what was about to take place in terms of having raised up people in this earth who were willing to follow truth regardless of where it took it or regardless of what we had to go through to follow it and find it. And we are at a place now where Jesus was. When Jesus got ready to go to the cross, there were those who began to fall away from him, to the extent that he turned to his disciples and said, will you leave me also? Why were they leaving? Because he became too controversial, and what he was saying didn't make sense to them. What I have learned on this journey, if I've not learned anything else, truth doesn't make sense. There's no logic to it. It just is what it is. But there is also no denying it because it always proves itself. And when we look at this 40 and 2, but first, are there any questions?
Yes, this is Angela. I was just gonna ask, could y'all do a quick recap? Cause I'm just getting on.
He suggests that you get the recording because it's been hard getting where we are. Okay. And
Okay.
At the end of it, we're going to put it all together anyway. Okay.
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 Thank you.
You're welcome, dear. Thank you for asking.
So,
The 42.
question. So the 42 months is years?
Yes.
Okay.
From Reagan was in 81, Biden went in 21. That's exactly 40 years. Now, Biden is the seventh, I believe, seventh president with 2 years.
Correct.
It's the seventh president. So the seventh one is the one in the 2 years. What does that mean? 40 years is 40, Kathy? What's that?
40 speaks to external kingdom and oppression. Well, I'm sorry, that's 42. 40 speaks to trials, probation, and testing.
And 2 speaks to change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is what I'm saying.
Well, 2 speaks to change. Either you change or you're destined to repeat.
The same
change
mistake.
or repeat. Uh-huh.
And 7 is completion. So the completion of this agony that men have been put through by men is at hand. I said to you yesterday that this thing of 40, I saw it. And what I see in that is this. In 2 years, those who are elected in 2022 for Congress, in 2 years, they will take office. They will take office in 2023. They will be elected in November of 2022. They will take office in 2023. Those people who take office in 2023 will speak volumes to where we are. We can continue this journey of truth, and we will experience in 2023 a change that is so different than what we have been accustomed to until it will be unrecognizable. And for those of you who are on the phone and have not heard this before, I remember saying 2 years before, in 2016, late 2016, I remember saying in 2018, there are going to be more women elected than ever in the history of this country. Did it not happen?
Yes.
I was shown that no differently than what I have been shown about the next 2 years. I am saying to you that the very thing that we have been searching for, have been desiring, this balance, this harmony, is at hand. It is not as elusive or far away as we thought it was. It is closer than our breath. And we have the opportunity to bring this to fruition. You cannot listen at what Joe Manchin may or may not do. You cannot listen at what bill may be signed, because it is my belief, and always have been, that when you get it the easy way, is that really God or is it you? When the situation and circumstances seem impossible with men, that's when the Creator shows His authority. So I'm saying to us today that the beast of the sea, this religion, has guided this government and has received its orders from the dragon, which is the ecclesiastical order. And I'm saying to you that it has come to an end. And you will see in a few moments what we're talking about when we talk about it has come to an end. Any questions so far?
Or comments? I'm very interested in what you're thinking right now.
This is wrong. I do. Go ahead, Charles.
I was going to say that God always say there's nothing too hard for him. When things get the worst, people think ain't no good or ain't no way gonna come out. That's when God always speaks that there's nothing too hard for him.
Okay, thank you, Charles.
I guess part of what I want to say is I hear you guys saying to us, be patient and listen, and along those lines. I would say that every lesson we've had probably for the last year or so has been controversial, if I can use that word. It has been out of the book. We use the book, but it has been out of the book, out of the realm of religion, and this is certainly no different. So I see everything that you've said so far. I just want to kind of tie it together though, and make sure I understand this.
Okay.
You started off with the foundation of the kingdom. So I'm guessing, or I'm trying to see what you're saying is when we recognize what the kingdom is and that we are the kingdom, and the kingdom is not only in us and all around us, we are the kingdom, and being one with the universe, being one with the Father, being one with the Creator, takes us back to the beginning. So those things that we have been desiring, we are going to birth into the universe. It is that birthing into the universe that is going to change this low frequency energy into something that is more enlightening and more into the loving kindness that we desire. So the stronghold, the caste system, will begin to dissolve because of that. And am I on track so far, or am I seeing something? Okay. So, because you cannot, I guess, expect the dragon to release the hold that he has, but what we're saying is, what you're saying, what I'm seeing is these strongholds that are being you're describing. They won't have a choice because the energy level will change, and Biden sounds like he has a role in this, and that maybe that's the manifestation to see that something has taken place. Either he will no longer be in office, or he will have a change of heart in 2 years, or something will take place in 2 years in politics to kind of support what is being laid out here today. And I'm skipping a lot of stuff, but I'm just trying to see what I understand so far.
Ron, I should have said this in the beginning, or one of us anyway, that when you said Biden plays a role that triggered something, we're not talking about individual people. We're talking about the concept they represent.
Right.
Yes, I agree. I was just speaking to something Barbara said when she mentioned the two. That seems to be very significant.
And I want her to reiterate that and to expand on it, if she will.
What I said was the implication was, following what Kathy had outlined regarding the numbers of presidents and the numbers of terms they served, when you get to Biden, as you said, that was 40 years. But what I said was, the implication was that Biden would serve 2 years. But I understand what you're talking about, the attitude, everything that has the energy that has been undergirding this heavy energy that has been undergirding all of politics and religion is going to change. The attitude is going to change. And in 2023, which would be 42 years at that point, that's when the energy, the opportunity for the energy to just totally change from what it has been for the last 40 years to something different and perhaps reaffirming to humanity rather than to groups of specified people.
Right.
And if I may add to what has been said, because you're correct, the foundation that I'm needing for you to see is that it has been a combination of religion and government working hand in hand to suppress and oppress and to keep us from seeing who we are. Now that we recognize where does let's be honest, we have seen religion at play, we have seen the government at play every time it's an election, every time we vote. We always talk about what government is doing, what these politicians are doing, because that energy that is permeating their way of thinking and that's causing them to the deeds of their hands to do certain things and the words of their mouths to say certain things, we understand that. But the hidden energy force that allows that and gives that life has been from the root of religion. What has to change is what is going to change in 2 years or what will change in the next year or before the 2 years is up is the mindset. Because if you go back to what we are wrestling against, we are wrestling against strongholds, spiritual wickedness in high places that has established and rooted itself in our thinking, in our mindset, and in how we even see ourselves. As a result of how I think about myself and my limitations and what I can and cannot do, it also, that thinking directs what I do. But when I am free from the bondage of understanding, and how do I change this? By not allowing the exploited religion. And what I mean by that, the word is truth. But if man takes the truth and exploits it and changes that to fit what he wants it to fit, then that becomes their reality and their truth, and they will present from that point of their understanding based on what they've made this word become to them. That's what they act on. What we are doing now is recovering truth. We are peeling back everything and saying, I see you, religion, for what you have been. I see the power and the effects that you have had, and I'm taking that power away from you. How? By not letting you convince me through the laws that you write or through the hand-in-glove relationship that you have with government. No longer will you suppress who I am, because I am the man in the earth seeking truth. My actions are going to align with truth, and I will not get entangled in all of the snares and traps you have set for me to make me think that I am less than. I am not less than what you're saying I am. I see who I am, and by not allowing myself, and we have these experiences all the time. When we make up our mind that we're not going to let something make us feel a certain way about ourselves, we overcome that, do we not? And it changes for us. It does not have the power and the impact that it was meant to have to bring me down. You can't keep me in a place of oppression now that I understand what the oppressors are. hand in hand, using religion and government to keep me in a place of bondage. Now that I understand I am the seekers of truth and we teach truth, we uncover what's right in front of us in these scriptures every time we sit down to teach. That's what's going to bring about change. That's going to change the mark of the beast. That's going to change the authority of the etchings on the forehead and in the hand. And I'll explain that in just a moment, but at least tell me whether or not that part makes sense, because now that I know where the government gets its source of energy from, its source of power from, through religion, my role is to look at the truth. What do the scriptures really say? And uncover that truth so that we all can be set free from the bondages that they have used the word to ensnare us and put us in bondage with. Does that make sense? Questions or comments?
It does. This is Evelyn. When you guys first started talking, you laid the foundation, and you are laying the foundation, and it was kind of bittersweet because you were calling off all the things that have been keeping the African down for a long time, and it looked like I'm just having flashback. But I know it happened for a reason, and what has been said and what is happening in the universe has been a long time coming. So everything you're saying is resonating, and we got this right. We're getting it right. We getting there, and I'm just grateful for what has been said tonight. It was just so much. I wanted to ask questions, but I couldn't because you know how we have to just listen sometime and just wait until you guys put it out there for us to get. So I'm just grateful because it's a long time coming, and I appreciate what has been said tonight.
And Evelyn, I appreciate you saying that, because you have to understand, if things are revealed to even us as teachers, I have to bounce some things off people sometimes because I'd never seen this either, and I didn't go looking for this. This was given to me to give to you guys, and I bounced it off Linda, Ron, and Pastor, and I even said, do I sound crazy right now? And they were like, you are not crazy. I'm seeing what you're saying, but it's so different from what we've known things to look like, because growing up, what I was told is nobody understands Revelations, and I was told this I'm thinking now, I've heard evangelical preachers and things say on TV, stay away from Revelation because you don't understand it, and it's nothing you can understand. And I have not looked at Revelations in a long time, and I don't ever really read Revelations. And when this came to me, all I wrote was the kingdom of God is within you and the mark of the beast. And I didn't even know. And then it said, he said, go to Revelation 13. And here we are. And you're right, it's a bittersweet pill to swallow, but I need to know that you're understanding where we're coming from, Pastor, or whoever that is.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know who that is, but I wanted to say something. This is Audrey. Kathy, I think this is sort of confirmation for me because I can remember back in 2017 or 2018 sitting in the foundation one Saturday morning, and we were sort of talking about Trump coming to power, and I kept saying it makes me think of Revelation 13. I had no idea why. I just felt it deep in me, and I couldn't really explain it. But it did make me feel like that. But the other thing I wanted to say is back at the beginning of Revelations, doesn't it say something about even though it seems to be a heavy, heavy, heavy thing, but understanding it as a blessing? Somewhere in there, somewhere at the beginning of Revelation, it says something to that effect. I can't quote it, but it's a blessing. Yeah.
Who's talking? Who else said something? I think it does. I'm looking back, but I think you're exactly right. And Audrey, if you stop and think, it talks about in Revelation about with the second beast, they made a golden image. Do you remember when you talked about the making the image of Trump, and it didn't end well when images were made? All of these things
Yep.
are coming together and making sense to me now, because for the first time, we were told, don't ever look to see government and religion doing anything together, and secretly they work hand in glove all the time to oppress us in the external kingdom. And I'm going to talk more about that in a moment, but someone is trying to say something.
Yeah, I want to
That
say
was
something.
Revelation 3,
Revelation 1 and 3.
1 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
I don't see why we would have struggles with this, because if we really believe what the scripture says, we see the same thing happening with Egypt and the Pharaoh. We see the same thing happening in the wilderness with Moses. We saw the same thing happen when Rome came into Palestine, and how that ended. And then when we look at, you're saying earlier, Catherine, what you were speaking about actually was verse 12, when it spoke of in 11, it said, I saw another beast coming about the earth, and he had 2 horns and a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon, and he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence. You see that?
Yes.
And he makes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast whose fatal wound was healed. What are you worshiping? He said the first beast whose fatal wound was healed. That's right now, that's the worship of the policies, the principles that Ronald Reagan laid out. And they were the most detrimental principles and policies to humanity that any president ever laid out since slavery. And the highest level of praise can be given to a presidential leader is to name a building, a government building, after him. Not only did they do that with Reagan, but they also named the airport after him. So this is talking about the praise that has been heaped upon the one who was wounded and lived. Right now, even Obama praised Reagan. Every single president since Reagan has praised him in one way or the other. So when we look at where we are in conjunction with what has been said, what has been done, what we are seeing in reality is how this thing is playing out, and how the government constantly talks about religion and how religion is to be paid homage to by us as a people. It defers to religion when it is convenient. They even have someone to pray to open Congress and to close it, but they have no bearing on the policies when it comes to what the scriptures are actually saying. I'm done before I say too much.
Hey, Kathy.
Yes.
You know when you were talking about, you need to go back to Revelation. You didn't want to read it. Now that you're back at Revelation, you're reading and everything's being revealed for you. And then you said that was a pill to swallow. I'm thinking Revelation is the pill to swallow, because to wake you up from that sleep. all of us from that sleep if we swallow this pill now.
You faded out. Say that one more time, Charles. I didn't hear what you said.
When you, I'm gonna make it much shorter. When you said Revelation was a pill to swallow, and a lot of people is scared to read Revelation. Some people don't know, and some people do know. But like I said, that Revelation is the pill to swallow, because if we swallow that pill, we can understand what's going on now, and it will wake us from the sleep so we can understand the spirit.
And you're exactly right. Exactly right, Charles. And I'm sitting here, I just told Lynn, I said, I feel like I've been teaching for 2 days, but it's so important to me that we see this. And I want to move, if we have established the platform of the relationship that exists and the strongholds that have been resurrected in our own minds. See, if I make you think something about yourself and I convince you that's who you are, you will keep yourself in bondage. And all I have to do is just leave you to your own demise, because you will self-destruct eventually anyway. And that's how things have been done with the African. That's how we have been. That's how everything that is erected through religion and through government has worked to oppress us and keep us in a place of, really, we say, oh, I'm just as good as someone else, but what do we work to try to become? Like the Caucasian. We want to be like the man who has the appearance of having all the freedoms, not realizing that the joke is on me, because nothing is designed to ever let me reach that level of freedom in this external kingdom. And I keep using that term, external kingdom, because that's where the oppression is taking place. And when I internalize that oppression that comes from an external place, I internalize that inside of myself, then it keeps me in my place. And that's how the whole game has been played, keeping me in my place. So as I looked at this thing, and I went over to verse 16, and I'm just talking about what I was shown. I can only tell you, and like I said, we're not going through this whole thing looking at everything. What we are to see right now is what was shown to me, and that's what I'm going to give you. It talks about, and he causes all the small and the great and the rich and the poor and the free men and the slaves to be given a mark on their right hand and on their forehead. And then it jumps down to 18, and it says, and here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number that is a man, and his number is 666. I want to take this last opportunity, and I'm saying last, but when I give you this is all I got. And if we got further discussion, we will definitely go into what you're seeing and what's being shown to you now. As you look at hand, and especially right hand has been coming from a place of authority, has it not? And we've always seen that, as we say, your right hand is the place of authority. But man, void of his understanding of who he is spiritually, hand really becomes a place of weakness for him. So as I'm looking at hand, now I do have some notes that I'm going to refer to, because I needed to understand what is it that is represented by hand when we talk about authority here. Well, hand is spelled with the, when we look at the Hebrew letter, the meaning, it is Yod, Y-O-D. Now here's where, and Yod is spelled Dalet, Vav, Yod. And here's where it gets interesting, because when we begin to think, why is the mark on the hands and the forehead? I'm going to explain hand and forehead first, and then the mark itself, and then the number 666, and then we'll discuss it as collectively once I lay this out. When I begin to look at this, it is through the works of our hands, the manifestation of our spirituality enters into our everyday consciousness through the works of our hands. As I begin to look at, that's what Yod means. As I begin to look at that, it says the fulfillment of spirituality comes about in the deeds that we invest in with meaning every day in our day-to-day lives, as we realize our connection to the divine, as we realize our spiritual connection, that impacts the deeds that we do. Now, as I'm looking at hand and I'm still thinking about hand, it says that Yod also speaks about what is it that we're doing when we are meditating. If you recall, we have spent weeks and weeks and weeks talking about meditation. I know we've talked about it a lot in the Saturday class because there have been a lot of questions about it. But what we learned from looking at the spiritual significance of hand and the word Yod is about the deeds of my hand and meditation. Meditation is the doorway. Meditation opens me up to everything spiritual. But it can't stop with just meditation. Using my hand to manifest the deeds in this earth, that is what brings me to a place of manifesting the spiritual consciousness of womb in this earth. So through my opening myself up through spiritual realms, through meditation, then the very actions, what I do with my hands is symbolic of the deeds that I perform with my hands, the deeds that I perform, the things that I actually do. Now, here is the kicker. Where is from the place of understanding inside of me that's going to govern what I do. If I see me as a spiritual being, if I see myself as one with a womb, my deeds and actions are going to come from a place of spiritual consciousness and one yet many with a womb. If I see myself as a carnal man, and I see myself as my power is in my guns, my power is in my ability to write laws, my power is in my actions and my deeds and whatever I must do to preserve white privilege. If I see myself from that place, then my deeds will be coming from a place of being nothing more than a carnal man. So when I talk about, could you mute your phone, please? If I don't recognize that I am spirit and allow my spirit nature that is in me, who I am, because it's not just who is in me, it is the spirit man that I am. When I realize that the purpose of my meditation is to open me up so that when I go into my day-to-day, everyday deeds in life, the works of my hand, the works of my mouth, the things that I speak will come from a place of oneness with the universe and oneness with a womb. When I am void of those things, my actions come from my carnal mind. And whatever I think in my mind, whatever I think I am, whatever I must do to keep the order and the status quo the way it is, then that is where it comes from. So when we look at what is on the right hand of authority, spiritually for us, the right hand of authority is a place of authority for us. But when we are saying that the beast gave the authority, his carnal authority, to those who make laws, to those who make policy, to the Karens in the world, to the people that perpetuate the lie by saying it and living it and doing it every day from a place of white privilege or from a place of earth consciousness, that's all they got. And that energy comes from the beast, from religion and from government, not from anything spiritual. That's the understanding of the hand. And it says written on the head. When you begin to think about head is Resh, and it spells Shin, Yod, Resh. And it means you can be from a place of poverty, or it speaks to your free will, but is your free will going to come from a place of your thinking through poverty when you don't recognize that you are poor in your thinking because you don't recognize your void of exercising the spirit that is in you because you let it lie dormant, because no government is making decisions based on just, hey, I am the divinity in the earth. I have changed scripture and written things to fit what I want them to fit, and therefore I've bought into those ideologies on my own, and now that governs what I do. So when we speak to free will, head speaks to whatever context and limitations you give to any situation you find yourself in. What am I saying? When you are having an experience, when you're experiencing something on your job or with your family, or even having thoughts of your own while you're even by yourself, you have the power in that instance to give it context, which is the understanding and the assess what's going on and bring understanding to it, and you give it limitations. You can say, I am no thing, therefore I am all things, or you can say, I'm a mere man living under the harsh punishment and the harsh laws of government, and that's where it's holding me. So when it talks about the mark of the beast being etched on the head and the hands, it speaks to what I am thinking, what limitations I see myself as having, and the deeds and the actions that I am going to perform in this external kingdom based on who I see myself as being. Mark speaks of deep etchings, and it's like a carving. These things, these thoughts, the way I see myself, the way that things are presented to me and the way I internalize them take root. It's etching speak to a deep place like a carving on the inside of me that begins to govern the way I speak, the way I think, and what I do. And as I began to realize that if I am coming from a place of not realizing I am one with the universe, I am one with the Father, I am one with all things, and I am loving kindness in the earth, if I can't see me as that, and I allow the power that be, meaning those energies, those low-frequency energies that are permeating this external kingdom and producing all the things that happens every day, that's coming from what is etched on the heart and the mind of man. Now, here's the thing. When you look at that 18th verse, and it says, so the number is that of man, and his number is 666. Well, we know the number of man is 6, and we recognize that number of man being 6 means that this is the number of man not recognizing that he is spirit man, that he has no spirituality. But the thing that the Father showed me that blew my mind about 666, it is the number of man intensified. Not 666, but 6 plus 6 plus 6, which equals 18. 18 speaks of bondage. So I remain in a place of bondage in my mind, in my thoughts, in my deeds. What I do, what I say is coming from a place of bondage, because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. When I don't recognize that I am the spirit man, if I see me as a carnal man, I make laws. I do all of these things to stay in my place of power and position, not recognizing that the true power comes in knowing who I am and that I am spirit man. So I go deeper into my carnality, 6 plus 6 plus 6, which leads me deeper into bondage. And as a result of that, I can't see who I am. So when I recognize that I am spirit man, it is my role to disentangle those who cannot see who they are. How do I do that? By being loving kindness. We said that. We knew that. But here's the kicker. By uncovering the truth of the scriptures and revealing it as it is shown, so that I recognize that I am not less than. I am a powerful being, and I am the first that had been last now. It is, but I am not coming from a place of being first, not in superiority, first in a place of oneness that now it is my time to make the change. 40 and 2. At 40 and 2, in the 2 years that's coming, either things will, we will wake up and begin to change everything around us from the place of understanding that I understand that some of the things that's been taught to me is keeping me in bondage. Some of the, and the laws that are written go hand in hand with that to keep me in bondage, but that I will not be deterred. Remember when I told you yesterday that I am not moved by anything I'm hearing the pundits say right now about, oh, Joe Manchin won't vote. He's keeping things in place. He won't let anything change. Joe Manchin isn't the agent of change in this universe. We are. If I get caught up in, oh, things aren't going to get any better, look at what they're doing now. then I am buying into the lie that has been fed to me by religion and government. But when I rise above all of that, remember I told you yesterday, the armor isn't for me to go into the wrestling match. I don't need the wrestling match in the armor. I mean, it's the armor in the wrestling match. What I need the armor for is to stand, having done all. Then you stand, take a position of authority, knowing who you are, knowing what the lie is, and taking the power from that lie by saying, no, I will not be moved. I will not be wavered by anything that I see and hear other than what resonates on the inside of me as truth. Questions or comments? And I said a lot. Question or comment?
This is Audrey. When you talked about the mark in the right hand and the forehead, I can see that so clearly when you think about QAnon being etched in those people's spirits. And then it came out in their thoughts, and it came out in the manifestation of what happened on January the 6th. It's just so clear.
And it makes perfect sense because they think they're right. That's why we can't fight people. We fight powers, principalities. Those are all different names for energy, low frequency energy that's running renegade and rampant through this external kingdom. But if the kingdom of God is in me and around me, it is my job to bring from the internal to the external and change everything around me by not wavering, because I know who I am and what's etched in me, in my head and in my hand that I give context to is truth. Truth has no limitations. I can't look at a situation and be boxed in by it because I am no thing. I am all things, and I bring truth to that situation, and I take the power away because now that I understand the beast and the dragon and all of these things that have been hidden from me, I take the power away from it, and I transform the very energy source that is supplying all of these things by being what? The man in the earth who is determined to bring about truth and take a stance and not waver from, I'm going to be right. I don't care if you cuss at me. I don't care if you call me the N-word. I don't care if you get in my face and act like a Karen. I will not waver. I will be loving kindness, and I will remain in power because you will not make me think I'm less than, because I know who I am. I am the man that has the power to make the difference, because 40 and 2, when we look at 42, the number 2, what will happen in the next 2 years is either we will take our rightful place and bring into this realm through the deeds of our hands and meditation on who we are and usher into this realm the kingdom principles through our deeds and our words and our actions. We will either bring that in or we will continue to the end of the years of oppression through the external kingdom, and we will be destined to repeat everything that continues. That is why people are still saying we've been battling this thing of racism all of these years. We've been battling this oppression. Things don't change until it resonates on the inside of you, who you are, and that you have the power to change it. But when we were looking for who we are supposed to be in this match with, who was my opponent here, it was hidden in plain sight. So we got mad at men. We got mad at Joe Manchin. We get mad at Mitch McConnell. We get mad at even Donald Trump. He is acting on the same energy source that has been here from the inception of time, that says, I will keep you in your place. He just said it in an overt manner, where others do it. Even Bill Clinton, everybody, Democrat Clinton, he wrote the harsh laws to imprison our kids for misdemeanor, for the first time, misdemeanors and everything, because that's the energy that has permeated this earth to the point where it has worked against us. We are the awakened man, like Barbara did the lesson on woke and yoke. We are that man that's yoked and woke and ready to take our place to do what we have to do. in this earth to bring about this transformation. But you got to see who your opponent is. See what drives the people who are influenced by the energy of the opponent, and not opponent is not those people. It is the energy that drives them, and change that. When I do that, then the lion lays down with the lamb. Then we are in a place of balance, peace, and harmony. That's what we have the authority to do. And the thing that is impressed upon me more than anything else is we were birthed for such a time as this. This is our time to make a change. We are the people in the earth with the power to change it. And if we don't change it, it will continue to the next generation. Remember I said on yesterday when the scripture talks about the sins of the father follows generation to generation to generation. How? Through the energy that is the low frequency energy that's always been here doing what? Energy produces, energy creates. We are creative energy. Recognize who you are and that you have authority over that energy to subdue it. Because the etchings on us, the mark on us is the mark of the Creator. It is deep and etched into our core of our very existence, not just my head and my hands, but every part of my being. I know that the energy and the life of the Creator is in me. And as a result of that, I have to see the power that I have. And it's a lot to wrap your mind around. This lesson is a lot for me to wrap my mind around. But I sure hope it makes sense. Questions or comments?
I have a comment. When you're talking about the etchings, if I may, can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
The etchings that it talks about are the mark, because it speaks about the buying and selling. You can't do it without that mark. The mark of the beast is simply the religious principles, the doctrines, and the reason it says on the forehead is because instead of receiving enlightenment through the pineal gland or the pineal gland or the third eye, it has been dimmed or covered by those doctrines and the idea of buying and selling. You buy into what's being sold to you, and then you sell it to somebody else, and we call that going out to disciple people, or to win them for Christ, or to bring them into the church. So, I guess in essence, the essence or the etchings are the mark is the false principles, and it's in our hands because we manifest it by what? By going out to disciple people. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. The very deeds that we perform, yes.
Any questions about that? I did not understand for years why is it that I could not any longer stand up and say the doors of the church are open at the end of a message, but I knew it didn't feel right. Now I do understand it more clearly because it was not the doors that were supposed to be open for people to come into a church. It was their hearts to be open so they could see who they are. And if the message didn't open the heart, open the doors of the church was simply setting them up to receive the mark of the beast, and that is the religious principles and edicts that will further that will keep them in bondage even longer. I'm done.
Hey, this is Barbara.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Barbara.
I'll yield
No,
if someone else wants to speak. Wow, you painted a very clear picture here of what has manifested from the carnal perspective in this world. You cannot miss it. It's very clear. But you're right. It was hidden in plain sight. I remind us that in February, we talked about kingdom principles. We talked about in January, politics and religion changes nothing. Understanding who we are and wanting balance and harmony for humanity is what changes things, one of the things that changes things. We talked about in February that as we understand who we are and live based on our spiritual experiences and desires and embrace the power that we are. Not that we wield power from this physical perspective, but that we embrace the spiritual power that we are, that we have the same power that governs the universe. And then we talked about energy levels, and I'm going somewhere with this, just to reiterate that based on what you've shown us, Kathy, we don't have to be afraid of what happens in 2023 because we are on track for that to occur.
Yes.
There's this guy named David Hawkins who does research based on the idea that the more true something is, the higher its level of consciousness or the higher its vibration level. So when we are in the moment, we are dealing with high vibration levels. And the way that we get there is what you've already talked about. There are some ways that we can amp up, if you will, the vibration within ourselves. That's through gratitude. We already talked about that. We already talked about loving kindness. We already talked about love. We already talked about meditation. We already talked about breath work. All of those things have been physically, scientifically shown to increase vibrations. So here's the kicker, and how much more from the spiritual perspective, because all things originate in the spirit first. When we are doing these things, our vibration automatically is amped up already because we're already one with the universal energies of the universe. And so being that way then, what happened that led to where we are now? We talked about whatever we do, let it benefit mankind. We've had this plague which put the world on pause, not the nation, the world on pause. It allowed people to rethink. Some did not, and they still carry the mark, but others have opened up to the spiritual aspects of who they are and are beginning to travel that path. So that those lower vibrations which feel heavy and dark and confused, we know how to deal with that now. We continue on the path of loving kindness, peace, joy, wholeness for humanity, not for the world. And so thank you for reminding us we don't have to worry about the Joe Mansions. We don't have to worry about what laws are on whatever books in whatever state, because the energy that we are dealing with vibrates at a much, much higher level than that. And we stay the course and continue on the course, and there is no way that those strongholds, that dense energy, that heavy energy, that confused energy can stand. And so I just want to thank you for opening that up to just show us in our face what we felt like we've been dealing with, but you were very explicit in showing us directly how it manifests on physical. So I just want to encourage us that there is no way at all that things will not change in 2023 because we will continue on this course.
Absolutely. And Barbara, that says it all. I mean, that summarized it so beautifully and powerfully, because that's it. We are unwavering. We know who we are. We know what's going on around us now. Our eyes are open to what's really happening. And it is not about men writing laws. It is about energy flows. And as you say, we are vibrating at such a higher level, and we are ushering in because we have spent so much time looking at the power of meditation, and it is powerful. But when I realize it leads me to the door and what I do after meditation as the man who is vibrating in balance with the universe, because that's what meditation does. It brings me into harmony and vibration and balance with everything around me. What do I produce after I come out of that meditation from the deeds of my hands, based on what's in my heart and in my soul and my mind and my spirit, in the very fiber of who I am? We got this because we recognize now who we are. So I don't have a problem knowing what's going on in the news, but I don't meditate on the news. I can't watch it all day. I don't need to watch it all day, and I don't even care to talk about it. But I needed to for today, just to show us the hand-in-glove antics of politics and religion that has kept us in a place of oppression that we are waking up from and rising above and moving on. So I thank you, Barbara, for those comments, because that just sums it up beautifully. Anyone else? Questions or comments?
Honestly, I think that the two of you at this point, rather, not the end time, but at this point, have really brought everything to a head in terms of understanding the foundation that was laid earlier. So, honestly, I don't think there's anything else to be said.
I certainly don't have anything else to say. I mean, I ask that you sit with us, and if you have questions about it, we will definitely, the next time we come together, we will start with those questions, but this is what I was shown to show you. And like I said, it's in the book, but it's new revelation from the book. And as a result, I've done what I was told to do, and that's all I have. But we will definitely talk more about it if you have questions or even comments later. And with that being said,
thank you.
I thank you for your time tonight, and I look forward to us getting together again at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning.
Thank you, Kathy, for your wisdom and your insight.
Thank all of you for your input and your wisdom and insight. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Good evening, Kathy.
All right.
Thank you.
Everybody have a good evening.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.